What's up everyone, I'm Earl the Rookie Woodworker. For today's video I'm going to go over my process for changing the sandpaper on my drum sander. If you're new to having a drum sander, you've probably already gone through the pains of tearing up sandpaper that you fed to your drum sander. And that's okay, I went through that too. I ruined quite a few pieces of sandpaper, and believe me, I know how expensive that can get. So what I'm going to go through is the process that I've kind of developed through a bunch of trial and error and learning things the hard way, and hopefully that process will help you out too. If you have not bought a drum sander yet but you are thinking about buying a drum sander, it's probably a good idea for you to stick around, because I'm going to go over these tips and tricks, but I'm also going to be going over some stuff that you probably don't know to expect whenever you buy your drum sander. And some of this stuff is stuff that you don't see people talking about very often. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing I want to discuss here is the sandpaper itself. I don't know about the other brands, but I know with Jet, whenever you buy one of these, they make it well known to you that they make their own sandpaper and they cut it out specifically to fit their drum sander. And you can buy that on Amazon, which I'll put some links to it in the description below. But this is pretty expensive. It's depending on the grit that you get and the time of year that you get it, or where you sat in a seat whenever you hit the search button. This stuff can come in at between $36 and $45, and you do get 3 rolls. So this is $12 to $15 a roll that you put on your drum sanders. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be ruining these rolls of sandpaper when you install them. So yeah, let's get that right, because that gets expensive quick. It's 3-inch wide sandpaper and it is pre-cut, but I didn't see that justifying the price of this sandpaper. So what I did was I looked for 3-inch wide rolls of sandpaper, and I come across this. It's also on Amazon. I put a link to it in the description below. And those links, by the way, if you click on them and purchase through those links at no extra cost to you, they send me a couple cents out of Jeff Bezos's cut. So yeah, if you could do that and send those couple cents to me rather than to Jeff Bezos's next yacht, that'd be greatly appreciated. But anyway, these rolls here are they run in the low 20s to the mid $20 range, and I get 4 rolls out of this one. So it's half the cost with an extra roll, which is pretty nice in my book, right? So yeah, this knocks you down to $5 a roll, which is way better. So this is a no-brainer. I go with this. But then we get to the fact that you need to cut this, which we'll get to that later on. So let's talk about trying to extend the life of your sandpaper. Now the most important thing for that is, you'll see right here, this 4-inch port is for dust collection. You need a good dust collector to be hooked up to your drum sander to make sure that all of that dust is clearing away from the drum as it's doing its work. Because what happens is if the dust is not getting cleared away fast enough, it starts caking on to that sandpaper that's around the drum, and then it burns itself into that sandpaper, and it's almost impossible to get out. Well, it pretty much is impossible to get out. It'll ruin your sandpaper quickly. So you got to make sure you have proper dust collection. At first, when I had this, I was trying a shop vac. It didn't work out too well. I upgraded to a bigger dust collector. I do have it a little bit far away from that dust collector, and it's considerably better, but I still have a little bit of problems on the outsides if I'm running some longer pieces through there, so I have to be cognizant of that. Now the next thing I want to talk about is this guy right here. It's an abrasive cleaning stick. It's basically a giant eraser for your sandpaper, and what it does is it cleans dust out of your sandpaper, which helps to extend the life of your sandpaper. They run around the $10 range on Amazon. I'll put the link for that down below as well, and I'll show you how I use it, because I got a pretty dirty piece of sandpaper I can use it on. The sandpaper here was used for an epoxy chessboard, so that's why it's so clustered up with white stuff. There it is, it's pretty well cleaned off. I'll hit that and wait. It takes like forever for it to stop, but I can use this, speed that process up. For the most part, it's good, other than this right here. Now that's what it looks like when sawdust and stuff gets bunched up on it and it starts to clog up. It's pretty much impossible to get that off. That strip there will start burning your piece. So the next time I put this piece of sandpaper on, if I do decide to put it on, I might not. I might just throw it away. But if I put it on again and use it, like this is all still good sandpaper, so I have to avoid this spot. So what I'll do is I'll put a pencil mark right there on the frame to let me know to avoid that spot. And if I put cutting boards and stuff through, I'll just be putting it through right here. But yeah, that's what it looks like. And then it gets dark and black whenever it really starts to burn in. Alright, so let's get ready to take this off. So what you'll see on both sides here is these spring-loaded clips, which has a little bit of a grip on the sandpaper, and the harder it pulls out, the harder it holds onto that sandpaper. It's the way they're designed. So what we want to do is probably put the camera down for this. I don't know if I can do this. Well, maybe I can. Just squeeze that clip and slide that paper out. And just pull it off. Get to the other end and do the same thing. Now if you're having a hard time getting it, there's no shame in using some needle nose pliers to get it. And there we have it, a bare drum. So for cutting the next piece, there's a bunch of like math involved, getting your whole length, and then you got to get a certain angle on both ends and da 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 da. I didn't do any of that. I just laid the jet piece down on the floor, and I spray painted the ends where it was. So all I have to do is lay down the fresh roll right along where the jet sandpaper was, and then it just made a template for me right on my floor. You can, here I'll show you. I got this end right here, and then I took some Sharpie and I marked like right where you'd end up having to cut it, because like the sandpaper's going to cover some of that, so you're not going to see this outline here because the sandpaper's just going to cover it. So I just marked in Sharpie where I need to cut to make the ends look just like the jet sandpaper. And then all the way over here at the other end, same thing. I made another one. But yeah, that's how I do that. You can do this on a long piece of plywood if you don't want to do it on your floor, but it's a shop floor, so I got all sorts of marks on my shop floor, and there's even a crack in the concrete. So this isn't the prettiest floor in the world, so I'll just put it on my floor. So what I'll do is I'll bring a weight along in my sandpaper. I'll put this down here, lining it up along that line there, and I'll line it up at the end here. I go over like 1/4 of an inch over the end, because the jet sandpaper is like perfect to length, and I find a little bit of extra length is a little bit helpful in this case. So I'll put that weight there, and then I'll stretch it all the way out to the other end, and then I'll put a weight on that end too, and then get ready to start chopping it up. I even have a little bit of extra. Not that I know what I'll do with this little bit extra, but I have a little bit extra. And what I'll do is I'll cut along that line there. I'll put a little notch along this line here. And that just marks where I need to cut to where I need to cut, and then I'll use a utility knife for that later on. A little notch and a notch there, then I'll be able to line up a straight edge and use a utility knife on the workbench. Notch there, notch there. Moving. Don't matter, it don't have to be exactly perfect. Cut though. Now I have a freshly chopped up piece of sandpaper to install. Let's do it. So I like to get started from the far left side here. Push that spring up there like so. And I put about an inch through there. And hug this in. Now when you run this across there, we want to make sure it's nice and tight as it goes across. With this long of a drum sander, that gets kind of difficult sometimes. And we want to straighten it out so that this seam is perfect. Once we get this first seam right, the rest of them will line up pretty nicely. Now it's important that these don't overlap. Make sure it's tight the whole way across and make sure they don't overlap, because if they overlap, it'll just shred the top part that's sticking over the other one, and it'll basically create burn marks in your wood too, and pretty much ruin the piece of paper. Ask me how I know that. Just put an overlap in there. Not looking. Just like that, to the end. Now we have this much left in the end to go through there. Now you want to push this clip up towards the paper and push as much of that paper through there as possible. Then when you let go of the clip, I'll try to let go of the bottom but keep the top up there. Then there's another spring that kind of pulls the clip this way, which pulls that nice and tight. Now all of this paper, it's good to make sure you don't feel any looseness anywhere in this paper. Because if you feel looseness, that looseness can cause it to bunch up and then overlap and then start messing it up and burning it up. And then a lot of times the looseness will all migrate over to this side and start doing a and what that noise is the loose paper hitting the shroud over here on this end. But everything feels tight, so we'll run a test piece through here. And the idea is to run a test piece. It'll be a thin, small strip that'll go the whole way across, but it's going to go in at an angle like this, but use up the whole distance across there. And the idea is it'll start over here on this side here, and it'll keep this nice and tight, and it'll work its way across there. And if there's anything that's loose, it'll all work over here with that one piece of wood. Alright, so I'll close it up and put our dust collection on. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll feed that in there just like this, and it'll start on this side and work its way over. And what that should do is if there's any looseness anywhere on this roll, it should cause that looseness to migrate over to this end. You'll hear the of the paper hitting the side, and then just go over there on that end and tighten it down. So I'll turn on the dust collection and let's go. Spin. Right now I don't hear any ticking, which means that it likely was definitely tight enough the whole way across there that it stayed nice and tight. Good. Shut that off. Yeah, you want to look and make sure. There's a little bit of looseness there right now. So try to put that in there. I should punch that up pretty good. Yeah, did it. Yeah, I want to look over everything and make sure there's no overlaps anywhere in the drum. A little bit of chrome there is no big deal. Or aluminum, whatever this is. Just as long as there's no overlaps. If it overlaps, it'll ruin it pretty quick. Yeah, we look pretty good. We'll run one more sanity run and call this good. Nice and tight. Real good. Perfect. It's ready to go now. But that is it for my process for installing sandpaper on my drum sander. Hope this video has helped you out or clicked the light bulb in your head for something that you could try. If If you know somebody who's going through the learning pains of having their first drum sander, send this video off to them. Hopefully it'll help them out too. But if you like this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this or more woodworking content, hit the subscribe button, go to the channel, check some stuff out. Again, the links are down below for pretty much everything in this video and everything I talked about. And yeah, until next time, make something awesome.